Well, welcome back, dear listeners, and welcome to the Reforming Nerdom podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jordan Cecile, and today I am joined by the one and only Ben Jamin, a.k.a. Ben of the Cloth, a.k.a. Ben Emery. Ben, how are you?
I'm doing okay. A little bit under the weather. If you can tell from my beautiful deep tone in my voice today, my singing in the shower has never been better.
Yeah.
And
Singing Smelly Cats, is that what you're doing?
Yeah. And I did also just about an hour ago discover a skunk in my backyard, so I was dealing with that right before recording. So,
It's a good
but
thing
I
you don't have a
think we've got
dog.
a handle on it. So yeah,
Good thing you don't have a
all is
dog,
well.
because my dog goes for the skunk, kills the skunk, but then smells like skunk, and so that's always fun. Yeah. Well, and we're also joined today by a very special guest, Mr. Jesse Gruber. That's correct, Jesse? Last name, pronounce that right? I just know.
That is correct.
Jesse
You nailed
Gruber.
it. Very German.
Of the Carpe Fide podcast clothing company. Mr. Jesse, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I am not sick, but I'm thankful for that. The kids had like a stomach bug that was, I got 6 kids, so it was like a 2-week long process of passing that around, but everybody's healthy and we are doing all well.
So what are the ages of the kids?
I've got Evie, who is 11, Jameson is 9, Teddy is 8, Waverly is 5, Maverick is 3, and our little Remy is 1.
Okay.
Well done.
You beat Ben.
Trying to see if I missed
Trumped
anybody
me
there.
by 1. Yeah.
Yeah. Ben's got 5. I have 4, and Nate just got his 4th. I guess not just, but he was feeling lonely with only 3 kids, so now Nate has 4 as well.
I always say you got to out childbear the libs, you know.
Cool.
I might have gotten in trouble one time when I was preaching at our church, and I made the comment as I was making the argument that one of the ways that we can just like pragmatically overtake secular culture is just by having more children. And I had said in the sermon, and I didn't really mean for it to come across the way that it did, but I said, well, they're all just gay and neutering themselves, so let's just keep having kids. And let's just say Nate got some emails about that comment, but most people laugh because it's like, it is just true, right? Just produce more children. Like, they're not.
Yeah, in a generation we'll be fine.
Yeah. I always think of Braveheart when the king's talking about the Scots and prima nocta, and he's just like, we'll just breed them out, right? Like that's the.
It's terrifying because that's what the Muslims are doing.
Yeah,
like very well. And like that actually should be kind of terrifying that they're producing, what was it? I forget the numbers because in that sermon I mentioned, but like the number of kids per family that Muslims are having is way higher than Christians, because we've bought into the lie that kids are a burden, kids are annoying. Why would we do that? And yeah.
It's like, oh man, that's a whole nother. I'm gonna hold my comment because it's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. How about video games? Yeah.
So on that, because wow, we could. You two are actually, Jesse. Why don't you just even tell people a little bit about who you are, where you're from, the types of stuff that you're doing? I know that you got a bunch of things on the go that you're involved in. So why don't you just give a little bit of a intro of yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you already know I'm a father of 6 children, husband to a absolutely wonderful saint of a mother. To them, I am a nurse by night. I'm an assistant nurse manager. I've always worked night shift. Sleep does not exist. You can sleep when you're dead. Me and my brother, we host 2 podcasts now. One is the Carpe Fide podcast, which we were blessed to join hands with our stalwart Canadian brothers during the awful dark COVID times.
Yeah.
It's the first time ever talking to Canadians was during that, and now we have so many wonderful Canadian friends. I'm extraordinarily excited to be joining this podcast. We just launched literally like last week. We had been toying with the idea of a podcast centered around Bluey. Having a ton of young kids in their house, it is, I would say, at least of this generation, it is by far the best children's show that exists. So we are diving into every single episode of Bluey, and we are going to pull apart some biblical themes. what goes right in the episode, what goes wrong in the episode. Just kind of have like a 20-30 minute podcast thing for families to kind of refocus their hearts and minds about the content they're watching. That's a really huge push.
So is that geared like for the kids to listen to as well? Is that kind of the idea, or is it more like for parents to kind of be able to talk to their kids?
It is. Anyone can listen. So when Jameson, my 9-year-old, when he heard that we were doing a Bluey podcast, he's like, "Dad, you got to get that. You got to figure out how to let me listen to that." I'm like, "Okay." So we have one of those Yoto players. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those things. Yeah. I was able to put the file on one of his cards for that, and he listened to it. We just took a trip up to, I don't know if you guys have Great Wolf Lodges up there, but
we do.
It's like an indoor water park type thing.
Yeah.
And he listened to that on the way up, and he said, "Dad, that podcast was hilarious. Like, we got to keep going with that." I'm like, he's like, "You talked about me and Teddy in that episode." I'm like, "Yeah, it's about kids."
Yeah.
So I mean,
I know you guys.
Yeah. You're why I'm here. But it's definitely appropriate for kids. And it was really funny because we were watching, oh man, I forget the episode. There's so many episodes, but we were watching Bluey the other day, as we tend to do. And Evelyn, my 11-year-old, was like, "Dad, this episode's about, what was it? I forget. She said some theme, and she's just like, like what you guys talk about in your Bluey in the Bible podcast." I'm like, perfect. So kids can absolutely listen to it, and then kids can start looking at the themes in the Bluey episodes rather than just being entertained. So yeah, you can subscribe to that. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on Amazon, and you can find that there. You can follow that channel on Instagram, Bluey and the Bible.
It's been really interesting doing this show. Just as you mentioned, your kids listening and being excited. Like our show is still like such a nothing show in the grand scheme of podcasts. Like it's been tons of fun, and we have more and more people listening, and the feedback we get is great. But it's just funny with my oldest daughter. When I told her, I was like, "Oh, hey Claire, like here's the episode on YouTube." "You're on YouTube?"
Yeah.
Not even realizing that literally anybody can post anything on YouTube, but it just blew her mind.
My children are so like internet sheltered that they had the same reaction, just blown away that my face could be on the television on YouTube.
Yeah, it's fun. But actually, and you know what? I think that type of content is really cool. Very like Ben and I, we just recently with the Skeleton Crew, the show that came out, we did an episode by episode breakdown. Maybe not as much looking at like all the biblical themes and stuff, but just trying to provide some commentary from the minds of Christian men who think Christianly and try to apply that. And that was a lot of fun. And we actually got a lot of positive feedback just because it just like kind of even keeps that conversation going, and it expands the content of the show in a way that otherwise it wouldn't. So that's actually really cool. I'm going to send that. I'll get my oldest daughter because she likes Bluey. All the kids do. So
who doesn't love Bluey?
I've never seen a single episode of Bluey in my life.
Ben, what are we doing?
I mean,
what are we doing?
I hate using the term based because like it gets so overused. But if you wanted like a based or a based kids show, like is there anything even remotely close to that? Like Jesse, you said it's the best kids TV show of this generation. I think you're right. I don't know of anything that comes close.
Yeah, I mean, truly.
So my problem is that like we just don't watch hardly any cartoons at all. I remember my wife watched I think one episode with a couple of the younger kids, and she didn't love it, and so she's not going to put it back on. And then like when I'm with my boys, we typically watch sports and Star Wars.
Yeah. Our kids right now are really into the Clone Wars, just because I just I've never watched it, and we got them watching Star Wars, and now they're just absolutely obsessed with it. Like it's hilarious watching how obsessed they are with Star Wars, and now they have a show that is just like more age appropriate because the last movie of the prequel trilogy, it's like, oh yeah, that gets pretty dark, and the look on their face, the look on their face when Anakin
more limbs chopped off than they probably were expecting.
I hate you.
And it's like they weren't really tracking with how creepy Anakin got and like how weird. And then all of a sudden they see him looking very angry at Padme and like just pure evil in his eyes. And obviously the younglings, you can't ignore that. And it's like, wait, what's he doing, Dad? Dad, what just happened? It's like, well, he just, mercilessly slaughtered a bunch of children. No big deal. So
let's just move on.
Yeah, that's right.
I made that mistake. I think Teddy was like 6 at the time, and mistakes were made, man. I mean, Anakin was just like a hot dog just moldering there, and he's like, I'm like, Teddy, don't look. He's like, I have to look.
Yeah. It's too late, Dad.
You were my brother, Anakin.
Yeah, I know.
The whole thing, man. If I could just share two other things really quick, just by way of introduction.
No, of course.
It's funny because, it seems like we all really appreciate, and having listened to your podcast for a little bit now, one of the things I really appreciate about it is my life is just so chaotic right now that I find your podcast to just be purely enjoyable. Like I can just kind of sit back, relax, let out a sigh of relief, and just pop it on, and it's just fun. I really appreciate that about you guys. But it's really funny because when I was in high school, we actually kind of got pushed out, I guess, of our church because I had done the controversial thing of starting, I called it a movie Bible study, which kind of sounds weird, but I had a bunch of my peers and, some junior high kids, and, we would watch a movie together and we would pick apart the themes in it, the meta narratives, the character development, the biblical themes in it. And it got a lot of bad press from people, but it's such a
you were how old when this happened?
I was like I was probably like 18 or 19.
And you got like church discipline?
Oh yeah. Well, I got sat down with the youth pastor first, and then I got and fortunately my dad was an elder at the church at the time. It was a whole big thing, dude. It was a whole big thing. We got sat down, and I believe I actually ended up saying, I said, well, Pastor, I said, it sounds like what you're coming to me is something that sounds a little bit like a fear of man. But I feel like we need to fear God more than we fear man. Because, it's like a principle. You get the emails from the angry parents, and then you got to do something about it. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to tell the kid to stop it, even if it's a good thing. And then I had to sit down with the lead pastor, like the teaching pastor, and I'm like, this is just out of control.
Yeah.
But anyway, the straw that broke the camel's back, which you guys should absolutely watch. It's a movie. It was a black and white movie called The Painted Veil, but they remade it with Edward Norton, back when he was a thing. And it's so good, man. So
I liked Edward Norton when he was a thing.
Yeah. It's not a kids movie. It's one that you should watch with your wives. But I mean, I've never seen a movie deal with the topic of forgiveness so overtly. It's just absolutely insane. So definitely go check that out. I'm trying to figure out how to make a long story short. It's during like a cholera outbreak in India. Well-off English people. He's a doctor. He likes this, girl in a family. She's getting older. There's a lot of pressure for them to marry. So the family ends up marrying her to Edward Norton's character, and she didn't want to. So they go to India. She has an affair with like an ambassador or something like that there. And, he's like, okay, well, you can go to this cholera outbreak with me, or you can marry him if he divorces his wife. Like, choice is up to you. So anyway, she ends up going. But later on in the movie, she finds out she's pregnant. And this is after she's watching him work with like the Catholics there to try to really help these people that are just dying in droves, just gruesome, awful deaths. And she ends up having like a change of heart toward him. Like she sees the kind of man that he is, and she actually loves that. So she finds out that she's pregnant, right? And she is really upset because she doesn't know who the father is, right? And just this beautiful scene. And she's like crying, she's breaking down, and she tells him, and he's just quiet. And he looks at her and he says, well, I guess it doesn't really matter now anyway, does it? And it's just like, oh my gosh. Talk about the beauty of that response to that news, dude. You guys got to watch that movie.
Okay.
On the lighter side, how about that guy getting when the choice is go to a cholera outbreak or stay with me? She chose cholera outbreak.
No. So she didn't choose cholera outbreak. The guy wouldn't divorce his wife to marry her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Out of her hand.
She got played. She got played.
Okay.
Yeah, but the other thing I just wanted a real quick update. I'm monopolizing your podcast, and I apologize. I'm excited to get to all
You're
of.
here. That's fine.
I'm tired. I'm so excited to get to all of the rest of the things.
No,
but
you're good.
I do want, because I know Trinity and a couple of churches up there were praying for us. Our sixth son, Remy, he was or sixth child rather, our fourth son technically. He was born with brain damage from a virus that he had in utero. So he has like cerebral palsy, severe delays. He's got like neurologic conditions, breathing issues, and stuff like that. So we're going out with a bang on number 6 here. But if your listeners and your churches wouldn't mind joining praying with us, that's part of the reason why we're so exhausted and tired all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking about listening to your podcast, finding joy in a little bit lighter and edifying content. Like, that's why it's been such a breath of fresh air, because I mean, the internet's just been exploding lately, and life has just been crazy. And your podcast has been a nice little alcove of fun and truth for us. But yeah, if you guys and your churches, you wouldn't mind praying for us, that I would severely covet your prayers for little Remy.
Yeah, brother, absolutely.
Will
do. I can sympathize with that. My sister had a degenerative brain disease, so she passed away about 4 years ago, and so the challenges that come with that are very, very real. And so we will definitely be keeping you and your family in our prayers. Absolutely.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. And like, what a cool, just even as like we're thinking of like doing this, you're in Jersey, and we're able to have the prayers of saints from another country, right? I realize like geographically we're not that far. We're probably within like 10 hours. It is wild. Probably. But how cool is it that we can connect and be able to even to do that? So, and yeah, well, we're thankful that you're here. And I mean, we try to have fun. Like, we're just, for us, like we're trying to create the thing that we want, and just being able to have something that can be fun for Christians to listen to, because like we love talking about it. And it's encouraging to hear that's what this is to you, is just something that's light and easy, because it's like, that's what we want. We just want something fun. And in contrast to your former elders, it's like, no, it's actually okay to talk about this stuff. And that's like one of the things of this whole project that we want to do is help Christians appropriately engage with and consume nerdy stuff, because and that's a big part of what topic.
Yeah, kind of like the main topic of even today's show is one specific aspect of nerd culture that we're talking about. How can you use it appropriately? What are the dangers? What are the positives? And
well, before we even get to that, a couple of things here. Just want to remind everybody, after what was a long intro but a good one, that we are Reforming Nerdom. And we get together each week to talk about all things nerd culture.
If you were waiting for the last 18 minutes to figure that out.
What's this podcast called again?
I must. And just as that reminder, we talk about all things nerdy from an unapologetically Christian worldview. You can check us out on YouTube, podcast services, and we would love also if you'd be if you want to join us over on Patreon, where you get access to our Discord server, which has been a lot of fun. We're having a ton of fun there. Actually, Jesse, if you're interested, just I'll shoot you the link. We'd love you if you're up for hanging out with a bunch of nerds talking about all sorts of nerdy stuff. That'd
be a blast.
Yeah, we'd love to have you over there. It's been tons of fun. But
can't wait to disrupt that space.
Amazing.
Every new person does.
Yeah, there's some fun things in there that we've been having. So, and that, like, even just for our listeners, like if that, like, we would, like, I think, Ben, we're going to probably just do an episode soon, just kind of casting the big vision for Reforming Nerdom, because even though, we're still pretty green, like, we have some pretty big aspirations for this. I think similar to what we see the Fight Laugh Feast guys, and like, they want to build this like big mega media empire, maybe not to the same degree, but like, even before the show, like, we were talking about football, and like, we need to have football podcasts, we need to have movie podcasts, we need to have video game specific podcasts, we need like all these different things. And so that's just like kind of our vision is just building the Uber community of Christian nerds, wherever you are, to be able to just like hang out. You want to find somebody to squat up and play games. Like, we have guys who are, sharing their gamer tags in the Discord to be able to go and hop on and do stuff. So that's kind of, but I think we can flesh that out probably more in like another episode. But Ben, did you have something you want to add there?
Well, just like to your point, Jesse, even of kind of just like the vibe that we want to to have with our show and with maybe future shows going forward is like, I think there's a place for the like specifically Christian version of, any given podcast, but we just kind of want to get to the point where our content is just good enough that we can just be the Christian guys who talk about nerd stuff and like it's going to be from a Christian perspective and a Christian worldview because that's just who we are. But we just like want to be able to talk about Eagles football or the Super Bowl's coming up. Like where's the like sports talk show that exists that also isn't promoting just all the LGBT, all the progressive, all like it doesn't exist, and that's a shame. So yeah, that's kind of part of our grand vision, as it were.
So if you want to be part of that,
I mean, FanDuel isn't one of the sponsors of this channel.
Yeah,
sports
6
betting
months,
now?
maybe 6 months. Yeah,
one day, maybe we'll see. But yeah. So, anyways, listeners, we'd love you to join us over there. And but before we even, we have a news story that I want to talk to you guys about, kind of pulling on the nostalgia strings a little bit. But before we even do that, Jesse, we always ask our guests to do a "What kind of nerd are you?" rapid fire question Q&A. So I'm just gonna shoot the question. Don't think.
Is this a pass or fail? Like, can I fail at this or
there's
okay,
no
all right,
wrong
good.
answer? Except for all of the wrong answers.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So how much we judge you after this will be your indication of how well you answered. So
I got to get in the Discord like right now. Then.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So first question, rapid fire: Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Lord of the Rings or Narnia?
Lord of the Rings.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Favorite video game console?
PlayStation. All of them.
Just all of them? Okay. Favorite cartoon growing up?
Angry Beavers.
Okay, that's new.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
Favorite
It's a 90s Nickelodeon kid.
There you go. Favorite 80s action hero?
I wasn't alive in the 80s.
You watch the movies. Like just...
You'd be surprised.
Okay.
80s action hero.
Or just favorite action hero. Let's just go with that. Favorite action hero in a movie. Could be the actor.
Yeah, actor or character.
See, I told you I can fail at this. All right, fine. It's definitely not 80s, but I do love The Mandalorian, so
okay.
He's probably one of the most based Star Wars characters out
right
there.
Over here. Yeah,
that guy. That guy right there, that one.
And then your favorite nerdy activity.
I guess it would be video games, which would be appropriate to this podcast. So
yeah, okay.
I like video games and reading.
What would you say on the topic of video games? What is your would you be able to? Oh, look at you, Ben. Would you be able to list your top five video games of all time?
I could try.
Okay.
I would go with God of War 2018 reboot. I would go with God of War Ragnarok for number 2.
Okay.
I would go generally with the Uncharted series.
Oh, nice.
You really are a PlayStation guy. Good for I am as well. Yeah.
I am exclusively. I've never owned another console except for the Nintendo Switch.
Okay. That's its own category. Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo gets its own thing, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Man, and so what? I guess that's 3. I've been playing. Me and Jameson have been reading the Harry Potter books.
Yeah.
So we've been playing Hogwarts Legacy. I was so surprised at that game.
Yeah, it's great.
So surprised. And I've been having a blast playing it for several weeks now, actually. So I will put that as number 4. And number 5 is Crash Bandicoot. It has to be.
OG, first Crash Bandicoot 1, like original PlayStation. Yeah.
Yep. I'm back then.
It's really hard.
It's extremely difficult. When my kids play like the new Crash Bandicoot versus like the old one.
Yeah.
It is a whole nother skill level.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like video games have gotten so nerfed over the years. Like you even go back to some of the like super Star Wars and stuff. Like some of them are literally impossible.
Yeah.
Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah. I actually three of your man, our lists are pretty similar. My number one would be Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't know if you ever played.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was, I mean, it's
was
a
a fun world.
controversial one. Some people, I mean, did the horses testicles have to shrink when it got cold? No, but the fact that it did, was it like, that's really
Cool.
impressive, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
it's like the level of detail some people thought was a bit much. I was completely engrossed with that world. I just thought it was.
Jordan, did you notice without reading an article that they shrunk?
I don't think I did. No.
Okay, good. Because that would have been weird.
Yeah, no. No. Well, it was like, because that's what people were complaining about, right? They were just like,
Right.
oh, like, does it need to happen? It's like,
Why would you complain about that?
well,
Like,
that
I don't
the argument over that game was people thought, because like part of a game is like suspending, what is it, the expression, like suspension of disbelief,
in reality, yeah.
right? And so it's like, I don't need it to be overly realistic, and Rockstar went way above and beyond in everything.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what made it just so engrossing. Like, you're just lost in this, what felt like a very real world. And
The wilderness, yeah.
the fact that game still looked better than most current gen games, and it was developed on PS4 and Xbox hardware, is incredible. Like that, it's just, so that one, and then God of War was the 2018, and then like that one had like a special, I don't know, spoilers for God of War if you haven't played it, but there's a moment, and maybe I can say this without getting too spoilery, but you've played it, so it's like, you know, when he says son, if you know that moment. And so like for me, I played that game, it was just after like my dad died, and so I was just like obviously really sad about that, and I was playing this game, but then it's this like father-son thing that they're trying to do,
So
and
good.
it was just like incredible. But then there's that moment, and like, Ben, I don't know if you're ever going to play it. If you do, I apologize, but it's so good because he calls him boy throughout the entire game. He's like, boy, and then it gets to this moment at the end of the game when he calls him son, and it's just like, drop the controller.
Oh,
I was a mess. I was just
yeah.
trashed. It was just like, talk about just like beautiful storytelling, right? And it was just, and anyways, that game is a masterpiece, an absolute technical story,
Amazing.
absolutely incredible. So yeah, no, I'm a PlayStation guy as well. Ben, what would you be a console? Like, would you have a
I
particular
have
console?
such an eclectic mix compared to you guys, probably. Like, I would say, like, just totally off the board from what you guys have said. Like, my top would probably be Knights of the Old Republic, the first one. I just adored that game. I adored the storytelling, the universe, everything. Gameplay's horrible, but whatever. And then I was a big like simulation guy, so I loved Civilization. Civilization 5 is like amazing to me, just such a cool game. I play a lot of sports games, so just like MLB The Show, I've probably put as much hours into that game as any other game I've played. And then I would even put like as far as an online game, the game I've probably played the most online and had the most fun with, like my brother and a few other guys online, is 7 Days to Die, which is like a super niche like adult version of Minecraft. It's basically like a survival zombie game, crafting.
Never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's like the corniest, cheesiest, worst graphics, but just the most fun I've ever had playing a game online. So yeah, I don't know. I just have like a very weird, eclectic mix. And then now, and everything is older because I just don't have time to play a lot of games. And like I said, like if I do, it's like playing NHL with my 6-year-old or whatever. So I haven't played, like the newest game I've played is probably 6 years old. So
Yeah.
You want to know a weird one? One that didn't make the list, and I don't think it would, but I don't play games on the computer at all. My mind just doesn't do the whole two hands far apart from each other type thing very well.
Yeah, I agree.
But Power Wash Simulator. When you said simulators, power washing simulator, guys. I'm telling you right now.
See, I've seen people
so satisfying.
Yeah, and I've seen people streaming like the what is it, like the lawnmower or the
like that farming simulator and the
farming simulator, and people just like really get into it.
I've played Farming Simulator before, and it's whatever. My kids liked it.
Power Washing Simulator,
like Sim Farm on the computer from like 30 years ago. That game was amazing.
Yeah, but like Power Washing Simulator sounds so hilarious and so ridiculous. But I've heard other people say it's actually very therapeutic playing that game.
It's so therapeutic. Yeah. It's like the thing that I need
Simulator
right now.
exists, so it's not crazy that Power Washer Simulator exists.
And it's a picture of the gospel because it's taking dirty, broken things and it's making them new again and clean.
Look at you. Beautiful.
Look at that. Anyone can do this. Come on, guys.
Full circle. Anything can be redeemed, everybody. Look at that. Even Power Wash Simulator. All right. Well, why don't we hop into right now the news story. So this was from a couple weeks ago, maybe last week. Yeah, maybe last week. We didn't get a chance to talk about it on last week's episode. But
Jordan, I need to interrupt you.
Oh yeah.
Go Jordan, for it. Can I interrupt you? I think we should do an ad read right now because I forgot my laptop cord and I need to go plug in my laptop.
Okay. All right, listeners, we're going to go quickly and do a ad read, and you can hear from one of our sponsors. Then we'll get into the news. Be right back.
Have you ever opened your internet browser in search of quality Christian books, only to find yourself wading through page after page of Joel Osteen books, Nerf guns, and tacky wall art? Thousand Generations Print Company is here to save the day. With a unique, family-owned approach, quick 24-hour processing, a commitment to providing heretic-free literature, and real human customer service, they focus on offering books that not only enlighten but align with orthodox Christian teachings. And, being conveniently located in southern Ontario, there's no more need to sell your left kidney to pay for shipping within Canada. Visit at actuallychristianbooks.com. Again, that's actuallychristianbooks.com. And order yourself anything from Haunted Cosmos to Sir Battle-Lot and use promo code NERDOM, that's NERDOM, all caps, and receive 10% off your next order. Thousand Generations Print Company, books for building, books for battling, for 1,000 generations.
Well, welcome back, listeners. And all right, boys, so this is I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are going to be on this. So this was an article. It was from Polygon, and it is in regards to the topic of gaming preservation and like physical versus digital. And so it's an article from, Polygon, written by a guy named Chris Plant, and it's an organization that has taken the physical gaming magazines, digitized them, and made them available online. And so this is the article reads, long before Polygon, video game lovers relied on print magazines to pass time at school, on commutes, during slow days at work when the boss wasn't looking. In the 90s, I checked the mailbox each day for the latest issue from the publications like Electronic Gaming Monthly, GamePro, dog-earing pages so I could quickly revisit tiny, fuzzy images of upcoming PlayStation games that looked, to my childhood eyes, like graphical miracles. Is that not the most true thing ever?
Oh my gosh.
Right? When you look back on a game that you used to love and it's like, wow, that's not what that looked like, but it really did. And then when I left for college, my parents hurled my dusty boxes full of mags into the dump. I assumed I'd never see the reviews of Scary Larry or the rumors of Quarter Man. I was wrong. Today, which I can't remember the day this was, but whenever that was, the Video Game History Foundation announced its digital archive of video game history, now available for free to the public for research purposes. The announcement claims readers will have access to more than 30,000 curated files, with lots more to come, of industry ephemera straight from the VGHF's physical collection, including more than 1,500 full-text searchable out-of-print video game magazines. Now, a couple things I want to talk about. First, did you guys ever participate or consume video game magazines? Was that ever a thing that either of you guys did?
very, very little.
I'm trying to remember what the one that I had was. Was it
There
Game
was
Informer? Was that
Game
one?
Informer, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
last big one that they just stopped, I think, physically printing it like a year or two ago.
Yeah. Did you guys have like magazine racks like next to the toilet in the bathroom? Because we did. And that's where Game Informer. I'd have to shove those kind of in the back so they wouldn't get thrown out.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Those were the days.
So, like, because it's crazy to think that, first off, like, not many people buy physical games anymore. I mean, I haven't bought a physical disc-based game in probably 8 years, but maybe longer. I don't even know. I couldn't tell you the last physical game I bought. But when I was growing up, it was always getting the demo disc, right? Like, getting the magazine, you'd get the demo disc, you'd be able to play the upcoming games. And, like, that is a thing that to me is such a lost joy, was the excitement around getting the magazine. Yeah. Like, because there weren't, like, IGN wasn't a thing for a while there, at least early on. Like, that's why Nintendo Power was such a popular thing, because if you wanted cheats, if you wanted hints, if you wanted to see the upcoming games.
That's the only reason like, occasionally I can think maybe 1 or 2 or 3 times I would get like a game, like specific game, like walkthrough magazine or whatever. I don't know if I ever just got like Game Informer, like a periodical one ever.
I have on my bookshelf, and I kept them partly, who knows, maybe they'll be worth something someday, but I actually have a stack of probably 20 official PlayStation magazines. And so, like, one of them was about talking about the release of the PS2. One of them was about like the first Uncharted game. And so I've got, just because like I actually for a few years there, like, regularly would buy them. Partly, I don't remember if it was official PlayStation that gave you a demo disc. Maybe it did. I can't remember. But like, there wasn't the internet the way that it is now, where everything is just an online publication. So it's like, to me, it's a sad, I mean, it's cool that people can go and, like, there's somebody who is actually trying to preserve that, because I think that preservation is an important thing, or something that we're talking about, because that gets into what I think, and this might be beyond the scope of this episode and beyond our scope of knowledge or expertise, but it's just preserving games, like game preservation as like a thing in and of itself, because the reality is Nintendo games, in how long, are physically not going to be playable, like possible to be playable, right? So it just gets into that conversation of game preservation and copyright laws, and so Jesse, have you given much thought ever to game emulation, ROMs, from the perspective of being able to like preserve gaming versus like copyright laws, which are obviously not really, they haven't caught up to our modern digital media? But is that something you've ever given thought to?
It's not really anything I've ever given thought to, but there was only, oh man, what was the game? Oh, I would love to go back and play like those Lord of the Rings games, like the movie-based games. I remember playing those.
And like hack and slash ones.
Yeah. I mean, like you play as like the coolest characters in the world, and you just go and you like fire mithril arrows through hordes of enemies, and they all catch fire, and they're like passing through waves of enemies. That was a blast. And like, I actually was, the only time I've ever considered like trying to emulate that was because, like, man, I'd love to play that with my kids, and I can't. I mean, I probably could if I invested money in getting a PS2 and finding the game and like actually doing the thing. But in terms of ease, like, that's the only time I've ever really considered it. But I do think it's cool. As a homeschooling dad, I love showing my kids stuff like that. Like, I remember when I bought them their first game that needed like a physical disc. They're like, "Dad, what's this?" You know, like there's like, it's like what do you mean I have to put this in, and I have to like care for it and not scratch it and like not lose it, or else I can't play the game. Like,
just be thankful you don't have to blow on it too.
Right? Yeah. And it's like, and I remember when Blu-ray came out, right? Like those discs are way more resilient than like the CD-ROMs and the DVDs, and like just like realizing how quickly technology shifts and being able to show that stuff to my kids, like, I think that would be cool. Like, one of the games me and my brother played, I would probably say it was probably PS2. was like the Time Splitters series. It was like, you know, like a pretty big first person shooter. Well, it was big for me. Pretty big first person shooter. And they were just like, the commentary was just hilarious in those games. You know, you could play as a monkey and it was like knee height of every other character and it was just speeding around the map and you can never freaking find the thing. You know, like that type of stuff was fun. Like that's why GoldenEye was like such a huge draw, because just being able to sit on the couch and like do that type of thing with other people is huge. And like the co-op aspect of games, just, you know, I think like games are trying to get a little bit of that back. Like split screen is a little bit more popular, or even like 2-player co-op games are a little bit more popular now than they were for a good while there. But you know, now that I have kids, like I long for that type of stuff, and really like Nintendo is the only one that really makes a huge push on that.
Yeah. That, like, we found that with the Shredder's Revenge. I don't know if you played that with any of your kids, the Ninja Turtles
I haven't, but I heard you talking about it in one of the podcasts.
And it's just like because I can sit on the couch and like realistically play that with my 7-year-old, and she's competent. I mean, like, I beat the game with her. And what other PlayStation games can I couch co-op that are realistic to play? I mean, like, they're on PlayStation, like Sackboy's Big Adventure, like that's one.
Those are amazing,
and that's a cool game.
Little Big Planet.
Little Big Planet. The right now the one that my kids are just adoring is the Ratchet and Clank Rift Through Time. I don't know if you've played that.
Was a fantastic game.
Yeah, it's great. And so
is that the newer one, or like the one
it is.
before this most recent
one?
No,
this the most recent one, and I would go as far as to say it is the most graphically impressive game ever made, because those cutscenes are no different than watching a legitimate animated movie. They are, and then just how they pan into the actual character, and then you start playing, and it's like, this is crazy. And when they get into some of their ray tracing reflection stuff, and it's wild what
nuts.
And like how much is going on screen, where you have all these enemies and the guns they make are just so ridiculous, and bullets are flying everywhere and bolts are flying everywhere. It
is really impressive. I'm glad you brought that up. That was one of the things I was gonna bring up at some point, because like that game, like, and you would never think about it, and that was like one of the, I forget if it was one of the first like PS4 launch games, but PS5. It was pretty early, or PS5 rather.
Yep.
I forget if it was, but it was definitely at least really early in the PS5's, you know, life cycle.
Yep.
And like it's a cartoon. It's not like a realistic game in any sense, but it is graphically beautiful. And like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, there's so much stuff on the screen. I'm like, wait, is this the time I have a seizure?
Yeah.
But it is. It was really, really cool and just fun.
Yeah. Well, and even the thing that blew, or that game, and Insomniac as a developer just does really well, is they integrated well with the DualSense.
Yeah.
And the haptics and the triggers. I mean, playing a game where you feel the pitter patter of the rain on your hands, because you're like, especially like, so for me, I typically, if I'm gaming on the couch, I'll have my headphones on, and I have like the 3D spatial headphones, and you're walking around on metal and you hear the clink, clink, clink. And then you feel the difference when you go on grass. It's just,
it's really cool. That controller is amazing.
Yeah, it's great. Best controller ever made. I don't know if there's, I know people will argue about the shift of like, is the best controller the Xbox with the, you know, inverted joysticks and like one up, one down.
N64 is offset. Pretty great.
I'll get that out of here. Worst controller ever made. Like, it literally was designed to have buttons that you can't physically push. Like, how did that ever get anywhere? Anyways. Yeah, that is, but because I do think, because I have a Steam Deck, and like, admittedly, one of the most tempting things about a Steam Deck is game emulation, because it's so easy. It is the ultimate game emulator. But then it's just like, you do get into this I mean, there's some justification, like even legally, if you own the game already, you can then, I think, have a ROM of that game if you have the console, and you copy the image, do it all yourself. So like, you can have that. It's just obviously that it gets into like the murky legal territory of, it's like, well, if you don't physically own it, but then what if you can't buy that or do anything to monetarily benefit the creator of that? And so, because I was talking to one of our elders at our church who's a lawyer, and he doesn't specialize in copyright, but we were kind of just chatting about it because he knows a little bit, and he was just saying, it's like, yeah, it's not as black and white of, oh, that's theft. Well, it's like, well, it's not. The analogy that I came up with as I was thinking about it was like, let's just say there's a book that you really like, old book, no longer in print. The author's not trying to publish it anymore. Ben, you have that book. I want to be able to read that book. Is it morally wrong for you to copy that book if there's no way for me to be able to purchase said book from the author, from a publisher? There's like, it's not in print, it's not available. Is it wrong to do that? That's kind of like the question that we're really kind of getting at with game emulation, is like at that point, because I think it is obviously wrong to go and download the newest Switch game and play it on your console, because like the mechanism, there is a mechanism in the marketplace for you to be able to pay. Like, so you are actually robbing money from that person. But it's like, I think it does become a more complex legal, moral question when it's like, well, what if there isn't that? Because then you do have actually built into copyright laws things about game preservation, about like historic or cultural heritage. And there's actually all these other precedents in other legal matters that just haven't yet been applied to or tested when it comes to game emulation and ROMs. But because
even like just public domain, like at what point do some of these games just enter?
They will, because copyright does expire. So it's just, there's no game yet that has existed long enough to actually be valid. So when was Mario created? I can't remember, but whenever that is 100 years after that, then it is just open, like, because copyright laws are,
Mickey Mouse, for goodness sake, is public domain now.
Yeah. And so, but anyways, because I just think it's, as somebody who, I actually really miss physical media, because I think as we saw in COVID, just the power of these big mega corporations, like, we don't own the games that we have paid for, right? I think that's something that people don't realize, is like, if you buy a digital game, you're not actually owning anything. You're just paying for a license to use that game. And so then we don't actually own anything. So if that store shuts down, kind of like what happened with Google Stadia, well, guess what? If you bought anything, thankfully they did refund people all of their purchases. If somebody, the 3 people who bought a bunch of games on Stadia, they gave them their money back. But it's like,
so I ran into this super, super small scenario, but we bought, actually it was the Tintin movie of all things on Amazon Prime. One night we were like, wanted to watch it for movie night. It was like $8.99 to buy it and $7.99 to rent it. So we're like, oh, well, let's just buy it so that we've got it forever. And then we went back to watch it here. And this was like, I don't know, a year and a half ago or something. We went back to watch it just not that long ago. And it's like, oh, it's not on, like, Amazon doesn't have the license for it anymore. So it's just gone.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't actually purchase anything.
Yeah.
That's, like, it's just, you purchased it until we just don't have it anymore.
It's the first movie that I've ever had to explain alcoholism to my kids.
Yeah.
Like, Dad, why is he acting like that? Well,
because he's slobbering drunk.
Yeah. Well, and so I guess listeners, if you are, or if you know somebody who actually does kind of have more knowledge on copyright laws, and I would actually we would love to have you on here, because this is a conversation that I think is just really interesting, because I think it's a lot of Christians, like a lot of things, it's just a black and white, yes or no, right or wrong. But it's like this is I think a thing that's not quite as clear cut, especially where, if somebody were to say like, oh, well, the law says this, it's like, okay, well, then I expect you to never speed. I expect you to never jaywalk. I expect you to so just, it can't come down to, at least from a moral perspective, just on, oh, the law says, because I mean, we rejected what the law said about meeting on Sunday for worship. And so it's and
like you say, though, like, copyright law was written before digital, like a lot of it is pre-digital media. So it's just like, there's so much of this that needs to get practically worked out as these things, as like case laws come up.
Yeah. So I would just,
so it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Cause like, I mean, admittedly, I would love to just have carte blanche access to all these games and just stream old Super Nintendo. I want to play Ken Griffey Jr. baseball from this SNES. And I don't know if Nintendo Online has that, because I mean, if they do, then that's how you get it, right? You go and sign up for Nintendo Online and you play it that way, because that's like, if there is the mechanism. But then even like a game that for whatever reason I've just had a hankering to play is NBA Street Volume 2. I don't know if you guys ever played the NBA Street games.
Not a lot. Played a lot of NBA Jam.
Okay. But like that's a game where I looked, I was like, okay, like can I get it on PC somewhere so I can play it on my Steam Deck? Nope. Can I get it on Xbox? Nope. Can I get it on PlayStation? Nope. There's nowhere for me unless I go buy a physical PS2 or a GameCube or an Xbox. And I mean, at that point, like you're kind of hoping that the console's not just going to break on you, because I mean, those are old consoles at this point. So then I would love to be able to have a way of doing that. They're not offering me a way to do that. So then is it permissible? But that's just like the conversation that I think is interesting to have. And I'd love to have with somebody who not just understands copyright, but somebody who actually is a Christian, because that right there is, a non-Christian lawyer might just say like, well, whatever, there's nothing's going to happen. They're not going to come after you. So just do it. But it's like, well, but we hold to a higher standard than just what's the likelihood of the law coming against me, because it's pretty low, almost nothing, because nobody's ever, at least from what I've been able to find, nobody's ever been charged for downloading a ROM. Now people get charged for distributing ROMs, like, because that's a whole other thing. But anyways, that's just what I think, because I'm also just kind of sad to see physical media go away. And I think that was kind of like one of the points I was trying to get at, was when you see things shut down, it's like, well, there you go. Like, you're not going to have access to it. But do we even have the right to maintain access to a thing that we gave money to? Like, Ben, like, should you have recourse to have Tintin? Like, you paid money, but
yes,
I
right? should.
You don't right now. That movie's gone now, right? You can't also teach your kids alcoholism again, right? And
lost that opportunity.
It's gone, right? So, anyways, I just think that's video game magazines, I'm fine if those go away, even though that was fun. Like, I actually had a blast and I love those coming out. But the bigger thing is just a game. Like, it would be really disheartening if at some point we wouldn't be able to, like, I can't play with my son Ken Griffey Jr. baseball because he needs to. Like, that game is just, now maybe that's rose-colored glasses.
And like the interesting thing though is like they're never going to disappear, because like people have basically already, like the ROMs of everything already exist. It's just a matter of working out the details of, can they be bought, sold, distributed, copied, downloaded in an appropriate legal manner.
Well, and that's the interesting thing is, actually, I was just listening to a podcast where guys were talking about it this week, and they were bringing up music and how accessibility almost always equals less piracy. Where you think of Napster, where before you had streaming things, like the first one I had was RDO. That was like one of the big music streamers that first came out subscription. And then RDO kind of went away, and then Spotify became the king, and now you have any big company has a streaming platform. I don't know of anybody who pirates music anymore, because everybody just has a subscription service.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, hey, people, just take those ROMs that exist, because actually apparently Nintendo, for a lot of their digital releases, they actually just take the ROMs that other people have created and have added them to Nintendo Online.
Why not?
Right, because they're good, right? These are people who specialize in doing it. Right. They just took it, popped it on there. So it's like, that's all it is just take those ROMs, put it on a virtual console, charge people a subscription, and call it a day.
Like good old games.com is one of my favorite places to go for like buying a game for $1.99 that I forgot existed, but I played a ton as a kid and stuff. Yeah. So I think it's going to become pretty commonplace with a lot of these older games, older systems. I think it's just these companies are trying to figure out the best way to actually make money while doing it.
Yeah. That's right.
I mean, I appreciate that, like, even on like PlayStation Plus now, they're like putting a lot of like PS1 games on there, like the classics and stuff like that. Like, I think that that's cool. Like, I think that that's cool that kids that weren't even born when these games were out and available actually do have access to that type of thing, in a worry-free legal, conversation. Yeah. I do think that's pretty neat, because I scroll through the PlayStation Plus catalog every now and then, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Ape Escape. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember we were at our shore house at the beach, and like it just came out, and it was like the big thing with the dual sticks, right? Like the analog sticks, you know. And I was just like, I gotta learn. I literally took the booklet out of the case, and I brought it to the beach with me. I'm like, I want to read about this. This is kind of cool. Like, you know, it's a moment. So like the kids can like have access to that. But yeah, I mean, to have that expanded, you know, or even like even just a service where you can like request games and have it added to a queue, and then one day, you know, it's added to like the live service, like stuff like that. I think people would eat up because the nostalgia is definitely there. Like, you know,
well, like we are the video game generation, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know how old you guys are. I think Jordan, you're my age, aren't you? 36.
Yeah.
Like
I'm 33 for future reference.
33.
What is it? Sorry.
Okay.
33.
Oh, young man. Wow.
It's just 3 years different.
So we, yeah, like, but like we're the video game generation, right? Like we grew up, we were born, video games already existed in their like kind of earliest form. And then we just grew into every next phase of video games. But like my kids, I'm just like, here, kid, play this like very complex dual analog, 3-dimensional, you know, like it's just like it to us just seems like very natural, but like we started with a side scroller and 2 buttons and you eased your way into it. And I think like to have that opportunity to do that with your kids too, to like play some of these simpler, just easy games. And I think it would be, I think these companies are remiss if they don't start focusing on that a little more.
Yeah, one of the things I was really surprised when I bought my PS5 is like Astrobot's Playroom.
Oh yeah.
Like just completely free, you know, like it was a demo in the sense that it was demoing the hardware and software and the capabilities of the PS5. But that was just like a really fun, cute game that my kids could they still play it.
Yeah.
Like, and thinking of that as like an entry-level game compared to like what we grew up with as an entry-level game, like it's totally different. You know, I'm watching my 5 and 6-year-olds struggle to figure out what to do, and they're like tilting a controller and like hitting their trigger buttons, and I'm like, wow, that is kind of a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot to process, even just
a lot
visually.
Of inputs and a lot of outputs, and
but I mean, they do love that, and I thought that was really cool. Like that reminded me of like the demo disc that came with my PS1, like that type of experience, and I thought that was really cool. And they actually did make a full Astrobot game recently. I would love to pick it up. I wish it was multiplayer. I think it was only one like single player, but like I would love to pick that up just because of that experience that we had with that demo of the game, and like that's what games were, you know. It was really cool. But
so I've never played Astrobots. What's a better sort of like demo game in terms of capabilities of the system, introducing you to this new thing? Is it Astrobots or is it Wii Sports?
Ooh,
because that was amazing when that first came out.
Wii Sports was pretty fun.
Like because that came with like every Wii, right? To show off what you could do with the Wii.
I think, which one? I think it was more revolutionary for sure, Wii Sports. Like, because, like, you had grandmas.
The whole concept was new.
Yeah. Like, and like, the impact.
My parents bought a Wii.
Yeah.
Like, none of us lived at home anymore.
Yeah.
They were putting that thing in nursing homes. Like, I mean, that was nuts. That was a crazy time.
Yeah. It really was. Yeah. What a wild... has any console ever had that kind of an impact? I mean, like, I don't think anything
like
even comes close to that.
Cross generationally, probably.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe like NES, like just like regular Nintendo.
Well, like that was so big because it was I think that's where you started really.
I don't know any grannies playing those. I don't know any grannies playing those.
Yeah, like
you know?
Unless they're playing Duck Hunt, right? Like I don't.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if. Yeah, that was. So I'd say that would maybe be
like,
more impactful.
How is there no modern Duck Hunt?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, how is there?
Unless there is,
I mean?
I just don't know about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we kind of did some of that too, but yeah, I don't know. That's funny.
Well, this kind of gets into think, I don't know.
I think VR.
No, go ahead.
Nah, you go, Jordan.
Yeah. No, VR. Go. Follow that thought.
No, it's just like VR has some. I would love to own a VR headset. Like I just cannot afford it right now. But like I think VR is like so cool and so fun. Like Duck Hunt would be so fun to play in VR. Like I think, like not even just like a souped up version of it, like just Duck Hunt.
Yeah, just like corny cartoon Duck Hunt.
Yeah.
VR is probably, or is the next iteration, like logically and technologically, from Wii, because it just
like
is,
the next sensory sort of
but it's expensive. Like it's not
it's a
cheap.
high barrier of entry for sure,
and it's just not even really realistic for people to play for long periods of time. Like most people can only handle VR for a few minutes at a time. Like it's just
I have a really low tolerance for it. I've only ever done it a couple times, and like it's cool, but like like I could literally not do it for more than 15 minutes or something.
Yeah, I was doing it one time, and maybe I mentioned this already, but on a previous show. But I was doing VR. My brother-in-law has it, and he has the steering wheel and everything. And I was playing a rally racing game, and then the car flipped because I don't know how to drive a rally racing game, and I almost threw up because I thought I was actually rolling in this car. It was terrible.
Watching the videos of people playing VR, like it's really funny because
more
like
fun than playing VR.
Yeah, at least as it currently is. Like my brain thinks of the potential of what it could be in a few years, and like that really excites me about VR. Like the price needs to come down. It needs to become more accessible for people, and then we need to get some really good developers in there to actually like make like really good high quality stuff. And some have, but they've never really been like feature or blockbuster things. They're always like this,
like little mini game.
Like side project kind of thing. And some of them take off, but like, man, like it looks cool. It is so immersive, and being able to like point my controller and shoot the thing that I want to shoot, and not like, because I'm not a PC gamer, I don't use mooses.
I believe.
Thank you. I don't use a mouse. I don't have that level of control. So, when you're trying to shoot something with a joystick, it is a bit different than if I can just point and shoot at something. So like for a console gamer, like that it's a really fun experience. And I hope that one day it does become a little bit more accessible, and I'm sure it will. I agree that I think it is going to be like the next iteration of video game technology.
I think one of the biggest missed opportunities that I've seen right now in VR is, why wouldn't you create the scenes from movies and video games that people love and just create it so somebody can go and walk around in it? Like, why hasn't somebody made a VR version of the Millennium Falcon or Helm's Deep or Hogwarts, and it's just like, go walk around the castle, go sit in the that to me seems like such an obvious, easy thing to do, and nobody's done it.
I would love to be sitting on a horse charging down at like Helm's Deep, or like, what I mean? Like that would be a pretty cool, that'd be
Ride
a wild.
Of the Rohirrim.
Yeah.
Just King Theoden hitting my spear with his sword. It'd be amazing.
Well, the reason why this conversation we're having today is kind of tied up in a tweet that I saw from a friendly pastor. It was from in response to something that Elon Musk was saying about video games. Because Elon Musk, if you don't know, he's a big video game player, proponent. He is actually one of the highest ranked Diablo players in the world. How he has time to do all of that, no idea.
So, I don't know if this is true or not. I saw something that people are saying now that that's all like not true. That he has like a somebody basically playing for him.
Oh, well, I mean, he could pay somebody to do that.
And so I don't know if it's true or not, but I guess he went on and like live streamed one time, and everybody was like, dude, there's no way this is a top 20 Diablo player in the world.
So either way, he's big into video games. It's like his thing that he
big
does
enough that he cares. Yeah.
And he like uses it as a way to refresh, recharge. The guy, I mean, runs like half a dozen multi-billion-dollar companies. So let the man play some video games.
Including the United States of America.
Oh, Doge is the greatest.
There's been so much winning.
Is spectacular, but that's a whole other thing. But because he's I've seen him say before that when it comes to hiring practices, he actually prefers people who play video games for hiring. And there are many benefits that he would cite for why video games are actually beneficial. Now, we know that anything can be abused, but this particular pastor that saw this said that video games are the death of masculinity. Now, Jesse, I don't know you as well, but Ben, I like to think that you're not some effeminate, anti-masculine guy and you play video games and appreciate video games. Jesse, you got a glorious beard. That can't be a man who is not masculine. So I just think it's like, as we even think about, you were the accusations that you would experience with your youth group thing that you did with movies, and what a waste of time. Why are you doing that? How can that be edifying? We now see here somebody who is a pastor who would look at video games and just no caveats, no anything, just broad brush. Video games are the death of masculinity. So I'm curious, what would you say if somebody in your church came to you? You're an elder, you play video games, and they said, "Hey, Jesse, you should stop playing video games because it's the death of masculinity."
I mean, I love it when people overstate things. It's such an easy conversation to avoid if you just put it in the proper way. Like, I mean, if somebody came up to me and said that, like, I'd be like, well, do you read books? Do you do anything as a hobby or enjoyment? Like, you know what I mean? Like I've seen obviously tons of different arguments, in video games, you go and you fight the bad guy and you save a princess. Well, go do that in real life. It's like, okay, well, one, it's not mutually exclusive, right? I mean, I'm not.
It's also not like generally acceptable for me to go shoot bad guys.
Right. Yeah. There's a level.
You already have a princess.
Right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I've already won in that regard. So like I look at, I mean, I think hopefully we can all agree that like video games would be placed into a category of entertainment, right? In terms of a broad general category.
Entertainment, hobby,
sure. Like I wouldn't say that video games are, to overstate that point would be to say video games are necessary to live a good life. Right? We would all agree that we shouldn't say that. But just like,
because that would be dumb,
right? Because that would be dumb. Just like overstating that point would be dumb. I mean, you just have to go back to basic biblical definitions of things to find out what that thing is, right? Like the Bible tells us what masculinity is, and then you would have to say, well, does someone partaking in a video game
negate that?
Right? Like, does it warrant that type of response? Obviously, no, it doesn't. Because then you'd be condemning so many people to a sin that just doesn't exist. A lot of people that are very against video games that I see also are heavily read, and they don't heavily read just theology or nonfiction. In fact, they would actually encourage people to read fictional works, to exercise those parts of your brain, to become more creative, become more imaginative. And for me, like, video games is obviously on a spectrum, just like anything else we enjoy, right? You have participation that's perfectly biblical, perfectly acceptable, perfectly enjoyable. And then you have video game participation that obviously can tend toward controlling or out of control, I guess, you could say, consuming, at which point, just like any other good thing, you would have to draw a line. That line might not be at the same place for every person. And so I think that what people generally try to do is they try to make something black and white that's not, just to make it easier, which is kind of what the Pharisees used to do back in the day. It's easier to say not to do something than it is to wade through what it looks like to actually bring out the full potential in that thing.
Then it's a lot easier to just say no to everything that's all the way out here.
Right. And like, it's just not the world we live in. Like, it's living in some weird alternate reality that doesn't take into account basic human function.
To me, it's like, how was that phrased again, Jordan? Video games are the like the death of masculinity, or like what?
The
How
death
was
of
that?
masculinity. Yeah.
Yeah, like to me, it's like, no, I would say that a widespread lack of self-control is the death of masculinity. And so can people exercise a lack of self-control in their video game consumption? Absolutely. Maybe even more so than is it maybe even more prevalent than in some other areas? I'm sure you could actually, like, I think you probably could actually make that argument. But the thing itself and the consumption of it itself is like clearly not the death of masculinity.
Well, because when you think of things that would be typically looked at culturally as masculine, would be working out, guns, hunting, working on your car, whatever it is. So it's like, are those things inherently always masculine, or do they actually, or can those be a problem? Can you be anti-masculine when all you do is work on your car and you're not actually loving your wife, loving your kids?
I know as many or more guys who've ruined their marriages spending weeks in the woods trying to shoot a deer than guys I know who've ruined their marriages playing too many video games. So it's just, again, it's a lack of self-control and a lack of taking responsibility, which I think is if you want to kind of define masculinity in a single sentence or a single term, it's like biblical masculinity is taking responsibility for yourself and for those who God has put in your charge. And so you can do that by spending too much time in the woods, too much time on the golf course, too much time in front of a PlayStation, but like
too much time at work, too much time on your phone, too much time doing literally anything at life.
Like,
you can sin against your family by spending too much time doing ministry.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why we're
sin against your and I hesitate to even make this argument because I hate the like, don't make an idol of good things, because I think we're so far in the other direction. But like, technically speaking, you can sin against your family by spending too much time with your family and not going to work and supporting your family.
Yep.
Like, it's just like, what?
I think like there's like a weird with that tweet in particular, Jordan, or that comment, there's like, I think that maybe they think that pro video game people aren't willing to speak out against the pitfalls of people who lack self-control and who get wrapped up in video games. I would be happy to point that out in my own life. I absolutely have done that. Certainly not consistently, just because the time doesn't exist for me to do that, but I've gotten swept away in video games, especially when I was younger. I mean, I do it now with Hogwarts Legacy, where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm starting to do this thing, and then I go off and do this other thing, and then I look at my watch, and I'm like, I got time. It's like Mr. Incredibles at the beginning of Incredibles 1. I got time. It's literally, it's that. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh dang, no, I'm rushing to do something. I do that. I'm okay saying that. I'm okay saying that I'm wrong to do that. Like that's masculinity, right? That's taking responsibility. It's not the video game isn't the problem. It is just a thing. And like, my preference for video games isn't everyone's preference. Like, I used to spend a lot of time like doing the online shooters things. Battlefield was so fun. Like, Battlefield 3 was absolutely great. But like, I don't really do that anymore. I get wrapped up more in single player, story focused. It's like people who really like movies. They enjoy the narratives, they enjoy the stories, they enjoy the character development. Like, I find beauty in those things in a video game that you can experience in a totally different way and find even more beauty than sitting and watching and partaking something, or even with reading. Not that I would say that reading is a more worthwhile endeavor than video gaming, but to say that one is wrong and one is right, I don't think it's not being intellectually honest. It's not being honest with, like how reality works. It's just stupid.
Well, one of the things that Elon Musk identified when it comes to like hiring practices is somebody who plays certain types of video games have to be able to very quickly make important decisions in the grand scheme of like, not important, but in the context of that game,
You are making decisions, right?
You have to make a decision that has consequences. And so you don't have a lot of time. So when you have people who are playing these games, they, even just by doing that, they're not realizing it. They're actually developing quick responses and how to do, and how to make quick decisions. And even then, when you think of things like the dexterity required to play certain games, the hand-eye coordination that you need for being able to, because like some of those things, I mean, I play Fortnite sometimes like online with friends, not the build one because my brain can't handle it. But when you see my 13-year-old nephew building a tower in Fortnite where he's just like doing all these crazy claw things, and like it's actually incredible seeing and how he's able to do that and without even thinking about it. And so it's like, well, that is going to, like, those types of skills are going to, I mean, building a tower in Fortnite's not going to get him a job, most likely. But the brain, like the cognition development and those types of things and hand-eye coordination that he's developing, like that is going to benefit him. And so that's why, like, Elon Musk would say he would prefer for certain positions, like an admin, doesn't matter, but somebody who's working on a rocket or somebody high stress environment and you have to make a decision, he would lean towards somebody who does do that, because like studies do show that there are just actual benefits from it.
Yeah, it's a conditioning of sorts, right? Like it's a conditioning the brain to work and problem solve in faster environments. I was just reading to get back to football, I was just reading an X thread the other day about how Jaden Daniels, the rookie quarterback for the Commanders, like about how he is able to utilize VR and get reps in a game, and he plays that game faster than real life football is, and it increases his awareness. He can see the field and know what's coming quicker, and he can get the ball out faster by training with VR, and he can do it while hurt.
Right.
Which is not something you can actually physically practice when hurt because you're resting your body.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely validity to that. And like, while, I work in an ER, I work in a high stress environment, technically literally life or death, sometimes, a lot of times, but like, it's not that I can attribute me working to the ER to video games, but I can definitely see how Elon Musk would feel that way about certain kinds of video games and the type of person that it makes. I think that the stigma with video games is video games equals laziness, and it absolutely can when you negate your other life responsibilities and when it becomes consuming, just like when alcohol becomes consuming or food becomes consuming or any other good gift that God has given us becomes consuming. You fall prey to that idol. So, none of us here are advocating for video game idolatry, and certainly it doesn't negate masculinity on its face. It is a thing that exists that absolutely can be enjoyed. And, my kids enjoy it. I enjoy it. My wife certainly does not enjoy it, but, like there's good aspects to that. And like when you're playing God of War and you hit that moment that you talked about, like when you see the relationship between a father and son change, and it's not woke, and it's so good, and it's like that feeling, having a character you control make those changes, and it affects the way you play. Like the relationship between Atreus and Kratos in those games affects the way the gameplay goes. Atreus, when he is on point and when he and Kratos are in good relationship, work together better than when they are not.
Yeah. And
like you feel the weight of those things even more when you're actually, I don't want to say living it, because you're not living it, but you are experiencing it in a much more visceral way than just seeing it play out on a screen. That's like, I'm telling you, in terms of the category of entertainment, few things have like really shook me as much as the God of War reboot series. I mean, it is just so good. I mean, honestly, one of my favorite lines from God of War 2018 is right at the beginning when their relationship is really rocky, and he's like, "Do not be sorry, be better."
Yeah.
And it's like, that's such a cool line,
Yeah.
But like watching how he goes from that to calling him son is just like, yo.
I know. Well,
that is, I think it was so real.
Was it Ragnarok where I think it was Ragnarok where the line was, if you have if you to grieve deeply is to have loved fully. Is that what it was? And I just like thought that was like such a great line where in somebody who experiences loss, it's like, well, yeah, that's why you are grieving the way you are, is because you actually did truly love that person, and like, you got to experience real love. And it's like, wow, that's actually super deep.
And like the series is so balanced, and I'm sorry if we're like nerding out about something you can't really relate to, Ben, in this game, but Kratos is going through his own stuff, and Atreus is focusing so much on himself, that he doesn't see or realize or understand how Kratos is going through that, and like in Ragnarok, the relationship between the two dwarf brothers is also a huge piece of that game too. Like, the sacrifices that the one made for the other, that the other didn't even know about, until after the fact. Like there's a lot that goes on relationally in those games that is just so good. And it really astonishes me that in, the 20 teens and 2020s that these games are happening without really a ton of weird, nasty, woke, and this one's a lesbian, by the way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just happens. It's just people in relationship living life. And it's really, really cool. And they do it so poignantly. Plus, the gameplay is awesome. But,
You're right. I cannot at all relate to this conversation, but you keep saying Atreus, and all I can think of is Atreyu from the Neverending Story. And so my mind has just been wandering off thinking about how much that movie scarred me as a child. So thanks for that, guys.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I apologize for this.
Kratos and Atreus, man.
You talking about something else?
I mean, there's more. There's more to that you kind of need to play the game to realize there's actually a whole other layer to Atreus as a character, and some pretty fascinating mythology type stuff that they introduced there. But I just think it's like we also can't negate the real inherent issues that do come with video games, because I think they're yes, it in and of itself is not a bad thing, but like, if we're being honest, it does lend itself more to bad habits than certain other things, because of just how engrossing video games can be. When you think of, like, one of the things I like about video games is, like, I have a lot on the go, very busy. Obviously, I got 4 kids, but I have a company I run. I work at the Ezra Institute. There's church responsibilities, all those things. And I love the fact that with a video game, it is using I'm using my hands, I'm listening, I'm seeing, I'm thinking, like, it's all engrossing, which it can be really nice, because it's actually, I don't have to, I can't really think about work, or I can't think about other things. So in that moment, as I'm doing that, I'm actually able to enjoy it entirely for what it is, which I appreciate. But the flip side of that is, if you are wanting to escape, it makes it very easy for you to do that.
Escape.
Yeah. Right. And like Nate has said a bunch of times before, where one of the problems that so many men have right now is that we're not taking dominion in the real world. We're taking dominion in these fictional video game worlds. That is the problem. Like, there are inherent challenges with it that we can't ignore. But again, it's just important to remember that doesn't make the thing itself bad.
I mean, I feel like we can point out some of those things, like escapism. I agreed. Escapism is a real thing, because you can be so immersed. You do have to weigh the time expenditure, right? You do have to figure that out for yourself and for your family, because you aren't available. Like, if you're in the middle of something and you're really engrossed in it, like, you aren't really available. Like, there are aspects to video games that we can point out that people can fall into, absolutely, and that do need to be confronted in my own life and in the lives of people that do play and have a harder time with discipline and self-control. But there's also the money expenditure. Like, consoles are expensive now. Games are expensive now. I don't really buy anything that's not discounted. The only way I would buy a physical game at this point, going back to that prior conversation, is if the physical one was on sale and the digital one was not. Like, you can kind of work that system, to your advantage. I don't think I would ever buy a digital only platform just for that reason, is because sometimes you can get the physical copy cheaper. Or if a friend has it, you could just borrow it. Remember when we borrowed things from other people? That was great.
That's been one thing over the years. Like, I do have a brother who also games a little bit, so like I've been able to. We have bought physical copies of games, just like I'll buy this one, you buy that one, kind of thing, and so that's been nice. Yeah.
But in terms of like family fun too, like you absolutely can. No matter what console you have, you can find ways to incorporate your family into that. I think you guys talk about that a lot, really well on the podcast. So I don't really think I need to go into too much waxing eloquent about that aspect. But you can have a blast spending good quality time with your kids, just being wrapped up in a video game for a little while. And I don't think that that's bad for them. I think that. In moderation and depending on the game, obviously we have to use wisdom there because not all games are appropriate for all children. Certainly, right? No one here would say that. But but it's just like thinking about anything else. It's about thinking about what food you're going to cook for dinner. Like there are foods that are poison that, RFK is going to tell us what they are and, make them illegal. And there are foods that are good for you. It's the same thing with entertainment, and video games no exception to that.
Yeah. All right. Well, just accounting for time, why don't we, is there anything else, Ben, that you want to say on this topic of masculinity? Because I don't want to take up too much of more of Jesse's time.
Yeah, I don't think
want to
so.
end on high score, so.
Yeah, I think it's just a lesson in like being careful with your language and being, and I know it's Twitter and that's what Twitter is, but like just don't overreact to either side. Like, call actual sins and allow people to use their Christian liberty where Christian liberty exists, and like grow in wisdom, and just be a responsible man, whatever you're doing, playing video games, golfing, hunting, like working, like just whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's
like
simple.
Spurgeon. It's like Spurgeon said with cigars, right? Just like, I'm going to smoke this cigar to the glory of God. Like, do it to God's glory. And guess what? There are games that you can't do that.
Yeah,
and that's just
we've talked
right?
about that too, right? Like there's plenty of entertainment, whether it's games, movies, whatever, books, whatever, that are just off limits, like easy off limits. So there's like you said, it's a spectrum of like there's clear cut, like, this is unacceptable things in gamer culture that are just no bueno for me, for my family. And then you just kind of get down the line of like, okay, this is acceptable, but we probably won't, and this is kind of our this is both edifying and enjoyable and whatever. And then there's just down here, even there's some stuff that's like, is there much edification to us just like whatever, jumping on little mushrooms and shooting down green tubes and just like, I don't know, but it's fun and like we have a good time as a family together. And so like, I guess there's some edification in that, but like you can just do stuff for fun as a Christian. Like, I don't know if anyone needs to hear that, but like, you are allowed to do that. So just be wise. Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like this, like, we're not done talking about video games. Like, this is going to be topics of many future episodes, but why don't we just put a pin in that for right now, and we'll hop in and do high score. All right, everybody. We're here at the time of the show where we're going to do high score. And Jesse, you said you've listened to the show. Have you listened to an episode with high score before? Do you know the rules?
You can certainly refresh me on the rules, but I know I have listened to them before, and I know that I generally don't score well.
Okay. So we're going to ask you a series of nerd questions in increasing difficulty and with increasing value of points. So we're going to ask you the question. If you can answer the question without requiring a multiple choice selection or options, you get a full value of the point. If you get it correct with the multiple choice, you get half the value of the point. So we start with 2 1-point questions, 2 2 points, 3 points, and then 4 3 points, actually. And then we end on a bonus question worth 5 points. Just to remind everybody, Ben still has the belt at, oh shoot, I don't have it right in front of me right now. Was it 12 points or 13 points, Ben? Nate was at 10.5 points.
I think it was 12.5.
12.5? Okay. But Ben's in first place. And as of right now, I mean, I probably should pull that up. But yeah, he's in first place, and second place is 10.5 points. And that is shared by Nate and Keith Foskey, with Josh Hames being in fourth place with 7 points. So,
sorry, Josh.
Here we go.
That guy baptizes babies, doesn't he?
He does.
Oh, he shouldn't be on the
and he's really bad at this game.
I mean, let's at some point we need, if we can somehow incorporate baptizing babies into a nerd podcast, let's do it, because I would have a lot of fun with that conversation. Ben, it is 12 points. 12 points is what you have.
Just 12, eh?
12 points.
Trying to steal that half a point. Jeez Louise.
Half a point.
Yeah.
Simmer down over there, bud.
All right. First question. What is Superman's home planet?
Who answers first?
Sorry, no, you. This is just for you.
This
is
is
for
just
you.
me?
This is all you.
Just you.
Oh, okay. All right, great. It's like, it's Krypton, isn't it?
Is that your answer?
Yeah, I'm going with it. That's all I got.
Krypton with a question mark?
It is Krypton. Krypton is correct. All right, 1 point. Question 2. Which video game series features a character named Link?
Legend of Zelda.
That is also correct. All right, on to our level 2 questions. Oh, and you know what? I just realized this is a multiple choice one regardless. So this one will just, you get the answer, you get the full value of the points, because it was positioned as a multiple choice one. So
I love the way this is going.
Which of these is not a starter Pokemon in Pokemon Red Blue?
Oh,
A,
yeah, right.
Charmander, B, Pikachu, C, Bulbasaur, D, Squirtle. Which of these is not a starter Pokemon?
I've never played any of those games. I'm going to go with Pikachu.
That is correct.
Well done.
All right, so you are at 4 points already. All right, next question. What is the name of the AI in the Halo series?
Oh, hold on.
This is what you get for not having any Xbox experience, my friend.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Cortana?
Cortana is correct. That is correct.
I actually started watching the Halo series.
Oh, yeah?
The show that they did. I think I made it through the first season of that. So
I was playing through the Master Chief collection, because I was always a PlayStation guy growing up. I do have an Xbox now, but I was playing through
did you never play Halo Online?
Never.
Oh.
And if I'm being honest, I think it's overhyped, if I'm being totally real.
Oh man, Halo 3 was just the most fun.
Halo 1, I mean,
like the single player campaigns are like meh.
Yeah,
but like in its time, Halo 3 Online was some of the most fun I have ever had.
Yeah, well, Ben hasn't played God of War, so.
And also, like, I'm a single player guy, like like yourself, Jesse. Like, I prefer, because I can pause it, go away, come back.
Yeah.
Good luck telling your squad in Destiny, hey guys, I got to go take care of my kid for a little bit. I'll be back. It's like, you can't do that.
You know,
that's why you got to get a squad full of dads.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
and it's like 11 p.m. when everybody else is in bed, because that's
I will say this, just to interject, and I'm so sorry that I keep doing this, but Helldivers 2.
Oh, that was fun.
So much fun.
Yes.
I can still, and it's like, you can't do this with a lot of multiplayer games. I can still just like take a break for a month on that game and pick it up and still have a blast playing.
Yeah.
Like,
I did that with
so much fun.
2 of my buddies, and we just squatted up with some rando guy actually from New York, and we had a blast. I only played it once or twice, but it was fun. Okay, level 3 questions now. These are now worth 3 points. In the TV show Stranger Things, what is the name of the alternate dimension?
It's like the Upside Down, right? That's what they call it. Unless there's like a more proper name.
You
That's
don't get
my
to
answer.
ask us questions. Yeah.
All right,
you
listen,
have to
Ben.
answer the questions.
I'm a verbal processor. I'm just working my stuff out, okay?
That is
I'm
correct.
just going to go with the upside down.
That is correct. The upside down. And you are now at 9 points.
Crushing it.
All right. Josh Ames is... Sorry, Josh.
I got to beat the baby baptizers, yeah.
That's right. Next question. In Dungeons and Dragons...
Oh.
Your brother is going to be shaming you if you get this wrong.
He ain't going to know it.
Which of these is not an official playable race? Is it the Tiefling, the Half-Orc, the Dragonborn, or a Goblin?
I'm going to go with the first one. Tiefling or whatever that was.
Tiefling is not correct.
Oh, bummer. Was it Dragonborn?
No, Goblin.
Oh, wow. No, I was way off.
Okay. What is the name of Solid Snake's brother in the Metal Gear Solid series?
No, never played them.
Okay, so multiple choice?
Yeah, go for it. At least I have a chance.
Liquid Snake, Venom Snake, Gray Fox, or Revolver Ocelot?
Oh. I'm going to go with Revolver Ocelot. I don't know. It's either that one or the gray one. I don't know. Or none of them.
Liquid Snake.
None of the
Liquid Snake?
It is Liquid Snake.
Yeah,
I've
way
never
too hard
played
on that one. Yeah.
I did. I feel like Ocelot's
Ocelot's
something.
a character. Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Ocelot's in it. Yeah.
Thank you for validating me.
Yeah,
I
Ocelot's
seriously, I never played any of the Metal Gear Solid ones.
All right. Last of the level 3 questions. Who was the first human Spectre in Mass Effect?
Does it have liquid in the name?
Liquid Spectre?
Gaseous Tasmanian Devil? I don't know.
All right. Here's A is Garrus Vicarian, B Shepard, C Saren Atreus, or D Anderson.
Oh, Atreus again.
Yeah, the trace is popping up. I'm going to go with Anderson. I truly have no idea.
It is Shepard.
That was my second guess.
All
but
right.
You didn't know that.
You have 9 points, and we are now at the final question. And now
if I get the final question,
you take it.
You do, because you will be at 12.5 points if you get half of it. So you'll get 2.5 points. You'll get 11 and a half.
You got to get it.
You have to get it outright. So you either take a swing and a miss,
right.
or you can at least get into second place. All right. What is the Konami code?
Dang, I got the first. Nope. I'm gonna have to. I know the first parts of it. I don't know how it ends.
Oh, you'll get the multiple choice then.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, just give me the multiple choice. I'm happy in second place.
All right.
If that's a thing.
A, left, right, A, B, start. B, up, down, left, right, left, right, B, A, start. C, A, B, A, C, A, B, B, start. Or D, down, up, A, B, start.
I thought I knew it.
Here, do you want me to repeat those?
No, I'm going to go with B.
B being up, down, left, right, B, A, start is correct.
Woo!
So you get...
I feel accomplished.
Partial points. So now that puts you at 11.5 points, which you now...
So close.
Jump ahead of Mr. Keith Foskey.
Almost needed that half a point.
Yeah, almost. So there you have it, everybody. Benjamin still has the high score belt. Jesse, well done, brother. That was good.
Liquid Snake, man.
The liquid snake. Gotcha.
We're just combining elements of the different forms of water with animals.
I know. Well, you did good. Early on, I thought you had it. I thought you were going to do it.
Flew through those level 1,
those first
level
few.
2. Yeah.
But yeah,
I was feeling good until no.
Well,
the Solid Snake.
Listeners, there you have it. Another episode of High Score. Benjamin still in first place. Now, Jesse, is there anything before we wrap up? Why don't you just give a chance to remind everybody where they can find you? What kind of how can they find your content?
Sure. I mean, the majority of my content is through our Carpe Fide podcast. So we are at Carpe Fide podcast on Instagram. We are at Carpe Fide on X. We're on Facebook as well. We have a sale on our shirts right now. We are trying to blow through some inventory, which is sitting over there in my attic. So if you would like to help with that, you can go to carpefide.com. You can click on the shop, and everything's 30% off right now. And we do ship to Canada as well now. That's like a new thing that we've finally figured out after 3 years of trying. So yeah, available to basically anywhere internationally, but you can get 30% off there. Definitely give a listen to Bluey in the Bible. We are the only Bluey in the Bible podcast that exists, as far as I could tell.
The world's greatest.
Yeah, it's definitely the greatest. In our one episode, we are peaking everything else. If you're having trouble finding it, just shoot me a message on anywhere and I can give you the direct RSS link because I'm still trying to work out some
Well, yeah,
bugs.
shoot it to me and we'll get it in the show notes for people to be able to find it. So yeah, we'll link out to all your stuff in the show notes. But yeah, that was great. Brother, thank you for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I mean, if ever you're interested in nerding out about games again, or I mean, I feel like we need to have a football episode, maybe a post-mortem, whether we're either rejoicing or just weeping at the results of the Super Bowl, because it's going to be one of the two. And but yeah, at some point in the future, we'd love to have you back on. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, hopefully you had a fun time nerding out. And listeners, just thank you for sticking around again. It's always our pleasure to be able to do this. And again, if you want to listen, just go to YouTube, go to podcast services, or you can join us over at Patreon. But until then, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy and do not sin.